Right now I really hate my phone because I have to re-record this now. I actually want to... Wow. Anyway. So... There's this lady, who's suing Walmart. Normally, I wouldn't even remark on something like this. Normally, I actually agree with them. And I'm just sort of like, yeah, I'm just gonna let this happen. But here I'm like, no, wait a minute. You know, it's kind of actually news whenever Walmart didn't actually do something wrong. And that this is really actually something that is store policy that they do, like, to everyone. And that it wasn't discrimination just because they were specialty hair care products, which doesn't even matter because guess what my leave-in conditioner is? And you want to know how white I am? I am Irish chick on the beach white. I can't Skype without looking like I am this white creature. No, I seriously wash out, and a friend from a while back, I guess, used to make fun of me for that. I have to have, like, the light facing down to even be seen on here. This is me tanned. Okay? I would probably blind you with, my stomach or the other parts of me that don't really see the light of day. Like my legs. God. Oh, blinded. Sorry. So people have all sorts of different color hair. People have all sorts of kinds of hair. What I've never understood is that in the white people section, there's stuff for, like, different kinds of hair. And I guess they've sort of changed it. Because whenever I was growing up, they had stuff that was specific for red hair and all that. Because, believe it or not, people with different heritages have different textures of hair. I don't understand why we can acknowledge this and then turn around and then say black people section over here, sort of thing. And hair care products after that happened actually got less diverse. Like, if I need something that works for my hair, I can't go to the white people section, and I don't buy my shampoo from there either. You know where I buy my shampoo? Pet department. Hear me out, because this is actually fairly common. You can actually go to the pet department and buy mane and tail. It is horse shampoo. It is good for people. It's actually super good for your hair. And if you use the leave-in conditioner and you want to grow your hair out more, it can actually help sort of condition your hair enough, and it sort of, I guess, feeds your hair enough nutrients and encourages it to grow. It is not harmful because if you've ever dealt with people who love their animals, yeah, there's a lot more lobbying for healthier stuff for animals than there is for people. And the horse shampoo is close enough to what people stuff should be that we can use it. And it's actually good for us. So, I use it. I have hair problems, so yeah, we're not going to go into that, but basically my hair has thinned a lot. Like, it used to be like this thick. I was that person that they had to cut my hair in layers. And I don't mean just the normal snip. I mean, like, I'm gonna put, like, most of your hair on top of your head and cut the hair down here, and then I'm gonna let down another layer and another layer and another layer. I literally, there were pictures of me as a kid with my hair out this far. That's before you consider that it's wavy. That's just, like, whenever it was wet and shit. I don't have that, and it's been thinning a lot over the past few years, and it also breaks. So I do a lot of this stuff. I just want to use stuff that's not gonna destroy my hair more. So I don't even buy the white people shampoo. A lot of people don't. So you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that are smart enough to figure out that that's bad for them, and they go for things that aren't bad for them. So yeah. Anyway, Walmart locks things up based on what's stolen more, to get back on track. Not based on who it's for or any sort of group or anything. It is Walmart policy for whatever gets stolen the most at a store to end up locked up. So some stores will have bike stuff locked up, like, bike locks or helmets, or some of the helmets will be locked up and then not some of the others. Depends on what kind, which ones. It's what's getting stolen more will be what's locked up. So I've gone to a store where some of the hair care products were locked up. They were locked up because they were stolen a lot. If you ask somebody and talk to them like, a human being and all that, they'll tell you why. None of that answer is because you black or because you white. I mean, I've had someone walk me. Honey, it ain't because you black. I'm about as white as it gets. I'm papery white. And I've pretty much accepted that this is the most I will ever tan. I've put some real effort into this. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the color of your skin at all. It's really just because they have to. Also, because Walmart gets stolen from a lot. Because, surprise, surprise, people hate Walmart. And the people that are okay with shoplifting, that are more likely to do it, they love Walmart for that. Because they hate Walmart. They're like, oh, Walmart shit, child labor, slave labor. They're supporting all this other stuff by supplying products from this and blah, 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 blah. And they pay their employee the way that it is to work for Walmart, blah, blah, blah. You're not helping the people that work for Walmart by doing that. You're actually hurting them. Because that actually, whenever you steal from them, like, Jean's store lost over $1 million in theft and misplaced product. Mostly theft. Most of that was theft. That was just this last quarter. There's been times I've asked him, or we've just talked about it, or it's just been a particularly high number, and he was like, wow. Like, after they tried to use the self-checkouts at his store. I don't know why they want to bring those back and try to streamline it and then include his store, because his store is a really bad place for that. If you do they had to take them out because they were basically bleeding money. They were just getting stolen from so much. Then there was the time that they tried to do away with the people that kind of check you at the door and, look at your receipts and stuff. So, I guess people in his area, just the area that store is in, people that go there are more okay with stealing than, I don't know. All I know is that, I don't know if it's just the area and just that Walmart, but whenever they used the self-checkouts, they actually lost a lot of money in that store. So don't do that. But whenever you steal from Walmart, you actually hurt the people that work there. Because they get a profit sharing check if the store makes enough money. They get a profit sharing check. And if you're making what Walmart pays people, you feel the loss of that because you could really use that. So, it's really not like they pay you out. See, yeah, all I have to do is like accidentally get a little bit more light, and you can start seeing how my skin starts becoming reflective. No, I'm super white and I know it, and I have to be really careful. Like, so you'll see me do things like stand with my back to the sun whenever I'm doing these and whatnot. Because if I stood with light directly on me, and this is still with it facing something else, this is just what is reflecting off of the table and the wall of the light, because I have it pointed down. And it's not even on directly on the wall or the... This is just not... The light isn't pointing at those things. And it is kind of one of those lights that you would need to do that to get, like, any sort of more force. It doesn't take much to whitewash me. Because I'm super pale. I'm actually not as bad as it can be, though. Because I'm super pale with a tan. This is as bronze as I am ever going to get. So, it does get paler. Yeah. I think I could probably blind someone with my stomach. Or my legs. But yeah. It has nothing to do with that. It ain't because you're black. It ain't because I'm white. It ain't because anybody else is anything. You could be rainbow. You could paint yourself like a fucking rainbow and they'd still have to do it. If it's locked up, they have to walk you to the register. Whenever they walked me to the register, it never even touched my hands until I'd pay for it. It's not like I go in those things often. I don't like having to. Nobody really does. But stuff in there gets stolen a lot. In the electronics department, if you ever really pay attention and you've gone to maybe a couple different Wal-Marts, take a look. Some of these, you might notice, don't all lock up the exact same items. Some of them will be similar or the same. But do you notice ones that are different? That's because they lock up the stuff that gets stolen more often. And if you're curious about how I know that, it's because my better half works at Wal-Mart. Because I asked, and because I've talked to multiple people who actually work at Wal-Mart. And you can actually just walk into a Wal-Mart, talk to somebody, ask them. You really don't need to get a lawyer and sue them. You could have just gone to a different Walmart and asked why people do that, and if they do it to everybody, and I don't know, you could even just get a friend who's not the same skin pigment as you and just be like, I'll pay for this, but I want to see if they do the same thing to you. There are a lot of ways to investigate this before you jump the gun. And yes, this is how I handle it whenever I am discriminated against. I take a look. How are you treating other people? Also, usually whenever I actually call it out in any way, shape, or form, they've been pretty blatant with it. Like the time that I was, actually this has happened a couple times, where, because Arizona's right to work state, it's really hard to enforce any type of non-discrimination law. So there's actually a lot of discrimination that goes on, including race. So I was actually told, we only hire minorities, you're white, get out. Wouldn't even let me, they wouldn't even take my application. I was just told, get out. You're white. We don't hire white people. We only hire minorities. So, this is something that actually happens to people. And it doesn't actually matter what color you are. So I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. It exists towards every group of people from every group of people. It exists. It knows no color. People are just shit. And they can be shit no matter what color they are or what color people they're being shit to. And sometimes it's not even a color. It's not racism. It's just general bigotry, like religion or something. You know, not everything, though, is going to be that. This is... I want to say this is as bad as what Michelle Obama did, saying that, like, somebody trying to say that she'd experienced racism because a short person asked her to reach something that she was standing next to on a taller shelf that they couldn't reach. But at the same time, I can kind of see where someone who's on guard and looking for it might actually kind of see it. But again, you have to be looking for it. You don't have to look for racism. It will happen if it is going to happen. You can't really miss it. It kind of feels really horrible to go through. You can't miss it. You don't have to be looking for it. You don't have to be trying to find it. Although it is usually prudent to make sure that that's actually what it is. I mean, you can't just say it every time you don't like something that is racism. Walmart does what it does in this sort of thing because that item gets stolen a lot at that store. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin, and walking you to the register is policy for everyone. They have to walk you to that register. They have to make sure that that item is going to get paid for because it's locked up, because this is a prime target for thieves. Don't know why. A lot of stuff differs from store to store. There's a general pattern, I guess, to some things, like, electronics. A lot of electronics get stolen, some medications on the shelves, pregnancy tests, condoms. There's a lot of stuff that you'll see that happen to. Actually, I've seen pregnancy tests in those things more than condoms, so I'm like, why don't you just steal some condoms? Not that I'm advocating stealing, I'm just like, if you're that bad off that you have to steal a pregnancy test, maybe you should have, I don't know, worked harder to get condoms? I don't know. I've never been that. I've never been at that point. I've been at, I have to buy the discount test. I wasn't using the really expensive tests whenever I found out I was pregnant with the boys. But, I've never been at, I'm going to steal a pregnancy test. And I've never actually shoplifted. I guess I'm weird. Because I guess I've never shoplifted or done anything like that ever. Not even as a teenager. And there are a lot of people who haven't. But I guess there's a lot more people than I thought there were that did. But I just never did. So, just don't shoplift. Don't steal things. And if something happens just that you don't like, make sure it is what it is before you lawyer up and decide to incur a bunch of legal fees. I really wish I had the kind of money I imagine this woman must have to even be able to afford to go to civil court. Because there's actual headway I could make in some things if I could. But I can't. And I'm like, wow, you're so well off that you can just pay a lawyer to go to civil court and they'll take the case. And what kind of lawyer did you get? They didn't even know that if you buy something in a case at Walmart, they have to walk you. They have to unlock it, and they have to walk you. And it's decided, I mean, this isn't something that's hard to find out. You can pretty much talk to anybody that works at Walmart. And I think there was an article about it that came out in response to this, because they're like, wait a minute. This time, it's not our fault, people. Or, maybe it was someone like me who's like, yeah, usually I'm like, this is Walmart's fault, but this time, no. Walmart has a lot of pitfalls and a lot of issues they are on the wrong side of. Then there's the issue with the fact that they close down a store whenever it tries to unionize, which is technically illegal, but nobody's taking them to court for it. But this one solitary lady apparently really wants to take them to court for racism. But this isn't racism. This item gets stolen a lot. So they put it in there, and because it's locked up, they have to walk her to the cash register. It is nothing against her personally, nothing against the color of her skin. It just gets stolen a lot. It's just the policy of the store. They can't just take it out of the case and hand it to you. And if they do, they're gonna get in trouble. Or they should get in trouble. Because they're not supposed to do that. Ever. At all. This is one of those policies that's supposed to go all across all the stores. It's against company policy. They have to do this. I don't understand what's so hard to figure out about that. If you're not looking for racism, I mean, I get it. If you're looking for it, why you might jump to that conclusion, in that situation. But maybe if you ask people questions and talk to them like a human being, you would find out that that wasn't actually racism. And that you're looking for it. That doesn't really speak highly of you to be looking for it. I've actually been through racism. I've been discriminated against. I've even, as a kid, in Arizona, this was the first time I'd run into it. We used to live back east, and then we moved out here, and I started going to kindergarten here, because Mom didn't put me back in preschool after we came out here. And, that was the first time I ever got made fun of for having pale skin. I was getting made fun of for being white. There was even a group of kids. They were basically basing their self-worth off of how mixed they were. And at the time, I didn't know that I was mixed. My grandfather never talked about it, and my grandmother hadn't specified really anything from her side either. Nobody was telling me, and these kids were measuring, your standing on the playground for, I guess, in that, your worth. Your worth as a human being. Based on, how not white you were. And me, the pale little girl with an accent from the East Coast, the one that the teachers put in speech therapy for having an accent. Oh, my mother went to town on those bastards. Because that's not why you put a kid in speech therapy. There are speech impediments, yes, but an accent is not why. I had an accent. That's all it was. And it wasn't hard for anybody to understand me either. So it wasn't one of those accents. It was just, you could hear it in my voice. The reason why they did it was they said I sounded like a little Southern belle. I'm sorry that we came from this area that's not even south. Well, I know we spent some time in South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia. My mom was in the fucking Navy. And, we had family in, like, all these different states, so, like, my grandparents would drive around and all this stuff. Like, I spent most of my time in the northern states, in, like, Pennsylvania and shit. I don't even know, like... So I know enough now to know that that's not even really a southern accent. It's just sort of the general East Coast accent. Anyway, they did that, and I didn't even experience that until we moved to Arizona. Like, I'd never even seen racism before. Like, the kid in my preschool class, she came before we moved out here, she came in braids. It wasn't weird for us to be like, yeah, we want to wear this. And so, there was a day I went to school with a bunch of braids all over my head. Because, and there were other girls that did this too. The only thing I wasn't allowed to do, because siblings are shit to one another sometimes, was I wasn't allowed to have the little balls on it. Because those things hurt whenever you hit someone with them. The reason why I stopped wasn't because I didn't like it as a kid. It was because I really hated the tiny little hair ties and the rubber bands that got stuck in my hair. And they'd get tangled and strands would pull and it really hurt. And there was this one time that was just this final straw. Because there was like a wad of my hair attached because it had gotten so tangled in there. My mom actually had to cut it out. That made me cry. Like, because they used to get so stuck in there. So, I remember this. And this wasn't... Kids are taught this sort of hate. You don't come out and be like, yeah, this totally sucks. Then, of course, there's weird people who are like, everybody can be anything. Somebody comes in wearing braids and shit. No, stay. You can't wear that. You white. You can't do that. Fuck you. Sorry. That wasn't something I ran into until we were in Arizona. And then it was this huge culture shock because suddenly every saying that I'd grown up hearing all around me by anyone of any color, I wasn't just surrounded by one color people. This was like, racism didn't exist to me. These sayings didn't mean the same things that people were making them mean whenever we moved out here. Like, here's one I haven't said since I was like 4 and a half, 5, somewhere in there. Instead of saying, like, cotton picking, this is like an expression that you use to accentuate, sort of like, oh, fuck, shit, son of a bitch. Or, like, oh my god! It's something that, sort of like the exclamation point in the middle of a sentence. It's how you like, add a sort of oomph to what you're saying. And it's not actually referencing black people. Like, at all. Because they're not the only other people who have ever picked cotton. And believe it or not, there are still cotton farmers. And there are cotton farmers that pick their own cotton. So anyway, we came out here, and suddenly I went home crying because somebody told me that I was a horrible person because I'd used this expression in the middle of a sentence, and it was a total culture shock. People aren't as friendly out here either. Like, you can't just say hi to your neighbors. You can't just say hi to your neighbors without somebody looking at you funny. I mean, sometimes you'll run into somebody, but usually it's somebody who's not from the state, or who has a lot of family from the East Coast. You know, West Coast is, especially in Arizona, is sort of not. The culture's different. And it's sort of more of a closed off culture. To be fair, there's a lot of corruption in the state, and you never really know who you can trust. Because there's always someone who will just use it because they're an asshole. And things don't actually work out the way that they're supposed to. All it takes is one person not to do their job, and everything falls apart. So, yeah, it happens a lot. So, people, there's a reason for it. There's always a reason for things in a culture. But, yeah, I hadn't even seen racism, before that. My grandfather's basically kind of like a closet racist to an extent. And he's not like one of those kill them with fire. He's more like he doesn't like interracial marriages or anything like that, or mixing. He looks at it as mixing. Yeah, that's why I wasn't allowed to know that I was mixed, apparently, because he didn't want me going around saying it. I don't know if that particular thing was just because of that, though, because in some areas it really is dangerous to admit that. I didn't know that as a kid, of course. But, turns out the thing, I used to beg him to tell me, if we had any in us. Because I don't know why, I was always super fascinated. And I was always really drawn to it. Turns out, we do. It's not a lot, but we do. So, yeah. Also have Israeli, Jewish. Wow, I'm probably gonna get the Black Panthers after me now. I'm super pale and I have Jewish in me. I really, really hope not. But, yeah. But most of what is in there is probably Swedish, Irish, Scottish. And if somebody's that super pale, you kind of know that there has to be Irish in there somewhere. Or, I don't know. Because this is me with a tan. This is bronze 7 we're going to get. Me without a tan. I've been compared to paper. Not proud of it. And if I get super anemic, I'm consider being so white that you can't even get any whiter, so you kind of turn more of a you have more color getting anemic. It can get that bad. I swear to God. I probably had more color when my lips turned gray and they had to do the rapid blood transfusion in that emergency situation than normally. Now the pink in your cheeks is still there. That sort of thing. But it's not the sort of thing that... Okay, so, there's a change in the pigment. You do have pigment. It's just... you don't really have a lot of it. So if it's gone, it's more noticeable. And if it's really gone, it's sort of you can't really physically get any more white without literally painting yourself white. So, yeah. I still, every once in a while, I don't know, I knew someone well enough that it was kind of okay to be ribbed because I can't even Skype without being just a mass of white with hair and eyes. And that's all you can really see. But Walmart doesn't do that stuff for racism. I've actually encountered quite a bit of racism. Real racism. The kind where you are denied employment and other such things. You know, where someone refuses to sit next to you at the bus stop. Or tells someone's daughter that they're trash because they're white. That, I've run into the racial slurs, being called a cracker. And then I also run into these articles online that say that white people who say that that they know discrimination and have been discriminated against are either lying or high on some white privilege, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Did I, not get a check or something? Because I don't see any privilege here. I mean, I work for what I have. Or I still have to, actually, you know what? Even stuff that's quote-unquote free, you still have to end up working for. You still have to go through the steps to get it, or, then, with clothes, you pass them around. You keep them nice, and whenever, if you gain weight or lose weight, you pass them on to somebody else, that needs them. This is, I think I've only had, one new outfit bought at a store in, the last 2-3 years. So, what part of that is privilege to you? Because I'm still trying to figure out what the privilege is. Just having pale skin? You think it's privilege to walk outside and burn? Because I'm not one of those people that... I'm that person that walks outside and gets really burned. Then on top of it, I have a sensitivity to that. So, even if I burn a little bit, I get fevers and shakes. All it takes is, a really slight sunburn. And the worse that is, though, the more intense that gets. The higher the fever will stick around longer, the shakes will be worse. It's basically sun poisoning, but it's I guess a different kind. So it doesn't require me to be super burned. It just kind of requires me to be outside for 10 minutes. If that, actually, no. I think this one time it was only 5 minutes. Yep. And then, then you look at me and this is me with a tan. And then you can totally tell that sometimes I wear shirts that are up here and down here because you can see where this is tried to become tanned and then is failed miserably. This is what my tan looks like against my skin. So then you have my face and you can see how it doesn't even take all coverage if it isn't something that's always out there. See, it's not much different. And even then it's only because, hey, wait, are my hands more pale than my face? According to my camera, yes. Is it that way according to my mirror? Probably not. Huh. Now I'm getting curious. Anyway, my skin pigment doesn't know what it's doing. And I'm not wearing makeup, so I can't even say that I'm wearing something like that. But it could also just be the way that the shadows play. Because if we do this, it doesn't matter, because I'm still wet enough to just kind of be a beacon of light. And that's still not... Oh, it's not even a bright light. It's this really dim light. I don't even have bright lights on whenever I do this. Because you wouldn't even be able to see me. See? This light isn't even very bright, and you can already see how it starts to, whitewash my skin. That is it pointed all the way down. So, like, I'm actually in a room that most people would be like, turn on a light. And, I'm actually just sitting basically in the dark. I mean, there's a hall light on over there. There's a kitchen light on over there. But the room I'm in, I can't be on a camera and have, like, a bright light or anything. So I'll, like, do things like stand with the sun to my back. But anyway, I got completely off track with this. But I just wanted to make sure that it was, I don't know, I just wanted to make sure that I said it. I don't really know if anybody's listening to it, but I wanted to make sure that I said it. This time it's not Walmart's fault. Usually, whenever you hear about Walmart doing something, they've legitimately done something horrible. Or are doing something horrible, or involved in something horrible, or, something like that. Sorry, my nose itches. In this case, it is just a policy for everyone, and locking up things that get stolen a lot in the store. It's not gonna, you won't always see the same things locked up at every store. It's literally just what gets stolen. If it gets stolen more, it gets locked up. And they have to walk you to there, because if you're going to steal it, some people actually are brazen enough to convince somebody to take it out of the case and then take off with it. So they have to walk you there, because a few bad apples spoil the bunch. So, sorry. I can't even be against this, because it makes sense, and it's really just them guarding themselves against theft. So, yeah. And it's store specific, so it actually makes sense. Most of their stuff, they try to streamline everything. Like with Jean Store. They try to go self-checkout, and they bleed money. Because people basically take complete advantage of it. And to steal more stuff. And they have a huge theft problem. And everything corporate does to trying to take away the people that check the receipts and all that, blah, blah, blah. All that has ever done is cause more problems for his store. But whenever, they need more measures against theft, not less. But, corporate doesn't really care. They're kind of short-sighted like that. Because the company essentially loses a lot of money in theft in general. But I know just last quarter, Jean's Store lost about $1 million. So now, to be fair, a small percentage of that was like misplaced product, which can also be done by customers. If a customer kind of switches something around, but it can also happen if something's just put somewhere it's not supposed to be whenever somebody's stalking. So, but most of that is theft. And that's, I don't even want to think about it. I still remember whenever Gene came home and he was stunned that much could even be stolen whenever they tried to do the self-checkout at his store. Like, it just in like a short period of time, they lost so much money that Walmart corporate just took it out. Like, they didn't even try to leave it there. They had to remove the self-checkouts. Like, this is never going to be a thing there. But here they are, like, we're going to just streamline it everywhere. I'm just like, no. No, that's a bad business decision. Anyway, I'm going to end this now because I'm really tired. And I don't want to talk anymore. So, this is Luna, signing off. And thanks for watching and sticking through it. Alright. Bye. Be blessed, I guess. Bye.